Welcome back to AM Northwest. It's estimated that 25% of prisoners came from the foster care system. And a new book spells out exactly where, when, and how that system is failing the kids who are in it. We welcome the author of Wards of the State, The Long Shadow of American Foster Care, Claudia Rowe. Good to have you with us, Claudia.
Thanks. Great to be here.
What inspired you to write about the foster care system and how kids are ending up in prison?
You know, I didn't set out to write a book about foster care. I was actually watching a teenage girl be sentenced in court. She's being sentenced for murder. It was a murder she committed while on the run from her foster placement.
Right. This is a true story. Happened in Seattle, King County.
Happened in Seattle. She had shot a man in 2016. She was had pled guilty finally and was being tried, sentenced in 2019. And even the judge said, you know, we don't want to totally blame foster care for what she did, but opportunities were missed. He did sentence her to a very stiff term, but it was then that I began...
That was the defense was using the foster care system, saying this is how she ended up where she is.
That was their argument, that foster care was at least partly to blame for what had happened, for what she had done. And that argument really intrigued me. Then when the judge sort of said, well, yeah, partly, I had known about the child welfare system as a journalist, but it was only through watching the case of this girl, Marianne Atkins, that I began to sort of put it all together and to look deeper at how many, many, many kids end up going from foster care almost immediately into locked cells.
Why is that?
There are a couple of things really, really common to the experience of all kids in foster care that sort of lead or channel a person right to a locked cell. One of those is running away. A lot of kids run away from placements. Doesn't actually mean they're running, they're just not where they're supposed to be. But they're out on the street, they get hungry, they might shoplift or do whatever, they might get trafficked. They're gonna get picked up by the cops. Then they go into juvie, right? They go into juvenile detention, they just got locked up. A lot of kids, if they're not adopted out of foster care, by the time they're a teenager, they're going to be in a group home.
Right.
A lot of fighting in group homes. Kids assault each other, assault staff, cops come. You just got locked up again. So that is why more than half of the kids who age out of the system will have been locked up by the time they're 26.
Marianne's story is incredible. I mean, the way she was kind of tossed aside by her parents and treated by her parents.
Her biological parents could not care for her. Her mother was, Marianne was removed from her mother, given to her father. Both of them had a lot of problems, and she went into foster care when she was about 10.
Yeah.
She moved around to about half dozen placements, was adopted, and then rejected by her adoptive family and sent back to the system. An incredibly underreported and common experience that is a profound rejection to the kid shows up in behavior.
Right. And she faced chaos like most foster care, chaos from home to home to home.
Totally. Her experience was totally common. She was not an aberration or, you know, off the charts in any way. I'm not saying every foster kid is going to shoot a guy in the head, but her path was really typical.
And she was sex trafficked. That basically led to that as well.
Yeah, she was. She had been, in fact, caught in a trafficking sting in Oregon. Only a week before, she ended up shooting a man in the head. She was in his car. Unclear what was going on there exactly, but there's a lot of suspicion about what he
sounded like he was a sex trafficker.
He was possibly moving in that direction, unproven, can't, you know, I don't, he is dead, and
we don't know,
his side. He has a family, and he's a victim, for sure. There are people who were harmed by Marianne, but there's a much larger system at play here.
You also highlight some other kids who went through the foster care system that came out okay. Talk to me about them.
That's the thing. So the gist of the book is that foster care, the subtitle is The Long Shadow of American Foster Care, and it is sort of a shadow over a person's whole life, even those who have gone on to become very successful lawyers or activists. Foster care is this shadow over their lives. It has shaped their psyches. It lingers, and it's a shadow really over all of our lives because it is driving the carceral system, prisons, and homelessness. Like 30% of the people you see on the street who are homeless, if they are young, they are very likely to be so-called alumni of the foster care system. So it's really a shadow over all of our lives that we are often unaware of.
Right. Tell me about, there was a couple people that came out okay, like Art Longworth.
Art Longworth is okay now. He, I don't want to give away too much of the book. He did commit a very serious crime almost immediately out of being ejected from the foster care system. This is in the 1980s, and that's one point. Art is now 60 years old. He got a life sentence. The point of the book is how long this has been going on. It is not a recent trend.
It's not a brand new problem here.
It is not a sudden new spike.
No.
But yet, we've never really confronted that. Really, wait, thousands of kids that we say we're going to do better by, the government's going to parent you better, in fact, go into locked cells.
Yeah.
So that's not really better.
Sixto Cancel?
Sixto Cancel he's a foster kid from Bridgeport, Connecticut. Who is now the founder of a national nonprofit called Think of Us, and he became, he's not even 35 yet.
Yeah.
He became like a regular advisor at the White House on child welfare issues. Just an incredible story.
I've got to believe that the kids in general in foster care face such rejection. I mean, just that alone, then they get into the foster care system and they're dealing with the other kids who are in foster. And I know that there's some foster care homes who do wonderful work.
Right. The point of the book is not to say foster parents are bad or there's all kinds of abuse happening in foster care. That is not the point. The point is the structure of the system itself, which is built on impermanence. The goal is permanence, right? A permanent family. But kids move around. That is what foster care is. It is sort of a holding system or a way station. It is not a healing system. And kids move around, and the experience of simply being in foster care, of being moved around, of always being the new kid, of connection to your family, even your foster family, being constantly undermined as you move to the next place. That is the problem. That is what is showing up in serious behavior challenges with a lot of kids who leave foster care.
How do we solve this problem?
I would say two things. First, foster care is slowly shrinking. So first, make sure that kids who shouldn't even be in the system are not in the system. Many of them are in struggling families. Maybe use some of the money for foster care on family preservation services, number one. Number two, I think reconceive the system to line up better with brain development. We didn't know this a century ago. These problems have been a long, long time, but we do know about brain science now, and we could design the system to work to encourage connections, to encourage bonds rather than severing them, which has been our traditional approach.
Yeah, and absolutely counseling along the way as well. You have a book event. It's tonight at 7 at Howes on Hawthorne. It's with Renee Denfeld. We're going to put all the information for everyone on our website at katu.com. The book again is titled Wards of the State. Claudia Rowe, thank you so much. Excellent work.
Thank you so much for having me.
You bet.
Hope folks come out.
We'll be right back with more AM Northwest. Don't go away.